Operation Dudullah has threatened to extend its operations to government schools. Let's talk more about this now with the chairperson of the Select Committee on Education, Makhi Feni. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Feni. Thanks very much for your time. I was listening there to what Dr. Dlomo had to say about why he believes that the concerns that are being raised by citizens should be addressed. Shouldn't the departure point be what the law says currently?
Good afternoon, good afternoon to your viewers. I think, you are on point in terms of exactly what is supposed to be done with regard to this question of the foreign national, influx of foreign national in our country, but not to take a shorter route of destruction. So as the Select Committee, we are against any form of destruction. Hence we said that we will not going to accept or allow any means of destruction of the future of this country, which is our peace.
And if indeed we know exactly what the law says, shouldn't then the focus be, certainly at the moment, before we talk about the repeals to various pieces of legislation that Dr. Dlomo was speaking about. In other words, look at how to effectively implement what is there. And if there are problems with the law as it stands that mitigate for a different approach, Parliament then looks at that only afterwards.
Indeed, with the necessary means at disposal in terms of legislation, it's correct to say that let us utilize what we currently have to minimize, this conflict, and also make those who want to take shortcuts to understand. I think with Dr. Dlomo, even though I was not privy in terms of his engagements, but in terms of the current legislations, you have your current Bella Act. Current Bella Act is constituting, is dealing specifically with the question of admissions, your management, to the school level. Then you go outside, you check in terms of what are your Immigration Act, is beginning to address. Then if you see gaps in terms of the current legislation that you have, then you embark on the process of, calling all the stakeholders, because it's not only the government-related matter, this one, but the society at large through the stakeholders. I think it's necessary, to take this approach, after you exhausted what you are currently having. So I support what Dr. is saying, but it can be a first step. There are preliminary processes that you must exhaust what you have at hand to see what are the gaps, that are there, and then you consider the question of promulgation, your repeal and so on, and amendments if any is needed.
Of course, and we also know, how the mills tend to grind very slowly when it comes to piloting legislation in this country. So, two things arising from what you have just said. You mentioned shortcuts, and I want to ask you directly whether you believe that what Operation Dudullah has been doing is to, take shortcuts instead of approaching the problem perhaps as comprehensively as you would want them to. Is that your view, that Operation Dudullah is taking shortcuts?
Thank you for you. I think our understanding of the civil society organizations is not must not be misunderstood at any given moment. If Operation Dudula is defining itself under those, I think it's a watchdog of our constitutional democracy. It therefore have a responsibility of ensuring that it conscientizes, it empowers the society at large, in terms of the rights that are encapsulated in terms of the Constitution. Therefore, they won't have any problems with that. But in terms of that straight pronouncement, destructive pronouncement as to they are going to disrupt our kids, because they cannot even tell who are those kids. They are going to disrupt, because even innocent child, they are going to be violated. This vigilantist approach that they are bringing about. Therefore, they must come on board. South Africa, is one of the countries that promotes engagements. I agree with you. Sometimes it takes some long processes to arrive, especially on legislation. But at the end of the day, it's going to come up with amicable solutions. That is why it's necessary to take that necessary process. That is going to be involving everyone. Not a single stakeholder must be left out. Whether you're talking about parents, you talk about your community at large, your civil society organizations, your political organizations are necessary, key in this instance. So, hence we're against this shortcut. We are defining it as a shortcut. We do not want to find a solution. Instead, we want to take, a populist stance, because if we may just make, carelessly and loosely, pronunciation as an organization, whatever good work that you're doing, that will be really unfortunate, because the good work that you're doing will be just overshadowed by those negative pronouncements.
Just to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, did I hear you correctly that you said Operation Dudula is a watchdog of our constitutional democracy?
I'm saying, portfolio, if Operation Dudula is defining itself under the civil society organizations, protocol, then it belongs to those, a watchdog, because they are the ones who are supposed to be, protecting, not to violate, the constitutional, prescriptions in the supreme law of this land. Therefore, if they are defining themselves as such, hence I'm saying that civil society role must not be misunderstood as those of a destructive pronouncement. So if they are such, then they must play their watchdog role, like any stakeholder, like the ones that we're engaging with today, your Songololo gender, justice, and many other stakeholders that we were engaging with, with regard to the issues that are facing our kids. But we are not going to accept, we don't accept, carelessness, recklessness also, that we are just seeing on Operation Dudula conduct now.
Okay. If then they do indeed carry through their threat or deliver on it, that of going to schools, now in other words, beyond hospitals and clinics to public schools, how will you regard them, or how will you regard that particular action? Will you regard them, or will you keep assuming that they are a civil society organization that is a watchdog of our democracy, or will you see that particular move or stance or action as a populist one?
Yes, indeed. Then that's when we realize that they are defining themselves out of that definition. Then we will have no regard whatsoever in terms of illegitimate actions that will be followed by their pronunciation. We will meet them with the way that they are approaching, because we will be protecting the interests and the rights of our kids, of our children, the future of this country. They must not try any means that will lead us to react the way that they will. Because in any action, there will be a reaction. There will be a reaction. So we are saying we are creating a platform, for engagements. Their carelessness cannot be tolerated. It's condemned by the select committee. It's not going to be accepted. So they must try by all means, to redefine themselves if they are not watchdogs of the constitutional democracy. As it is protected by the Constitution. They must follow what is the rule of law. It's all about what the rule of law stands for.
So what will you do or recommend in the event they don't listen to your advice?
If you saw what happened, none of their distractions, people were arrested. It is not the interest of government to have people arrested willy-nilly. But if people do not want to, we will take that as criminal. There is no other way that we will accept it. Any misconduct in society that is against the law will have to be, meted as such. So even in this instance, there are processes, of application for admissions for 2026. They must come closer to that process if they are legitimate in terms of their action, just to understand how this process are unfolding in different schools where they are, and especially to the areas that they are complaining. A government must not be understood as if it's promoting, the illegality in this country. If there are illegal people in this country, they must be, treated as such. If there are illegal conduct in this country, they must be treated as such. This is not a banana republic. This is a constitutional democracy. Every, citizen of this country is protected and equal, before the law.
Mr. Makhi Feni, let me thank you very much for your time this afternoon. He's the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces Select Committee on Education, following threats by Operation Dudula that it's going to extend its operations that we've seen in public hospitals and clinics to government schools.